The Firewoman Archetype in Popular Culture, History, and the Psyche. Several years ago I had a dream, a nightmare. I was surrounded by bright white light, and a woman was standing directly in front of me. She was blonde and attractive. She took my hands in hers and stared compassionately into my eyes before suddenly bursting into flames. I remember telling myself to wake up, wake up, wake up. A year would pass before I would really begin to understand this firewoman pattern in a wider context. The first clue came on the radio, the song Firewoman by The Cult. Wound up, can't sleep, can't do anything right, little honey. Oh, since I set my eyes on you. Its opening verse caught my attention. It was surprisingly applicable. My dream marked the beginning of a 3-month period in which I would fear falling asleep. Many nightmares would visit me during this time. Twisting like a flame in a slow dance baby. You're driving me crazy. Like the girl in my dream, the firewoman in the song was very attractive, maybe an 11 out of 10. She would turn any man's head, the kind of woman that causes men to compete for her attention, or the kind that demands it. As time went on, I found many more examples of her in popular culture, one of the most recent being in the Adult Swim hit Rick and Morty. In this episode, Morty becomes smitten with an eco-friendly superhero named Planetina. He ultimately has to end their relationship when Planetina becomes enraged at a team of miners for raping the Earth. She bursts into flames and kills them. The episode was a hilarious commentary on environmental extremism. An even more recent example is the Blumhouse production of Stephen King's Firestarter, in which a young girl with pyrokinesis, the ability to start and control fire with her mind, fights for her freedom against a shadowy government agency. But the most complete and profound conceptualization of the firewoman archetype comes to us from the mind of George R.R. Martin, through the talent of actress Emilia Clarke in the HBO series Game of Thrones. Daenerys Targaryen, Mother of Dragons, was a conqueror, liberator, and a queen. For a time, I only thought of the lady in my dream as negative, something destructive, like Jean Grey in X-Men, the Dark Phoenix saga. But I was only looking at her from one dimension. In the show, Daenerys went about conquering worlds with her fire-breathing dragons. This is of course destructive, but many of the governments and hierarchies she toppled were corrupt or tyrannical and oppressive. She flattened the social structures, taking down the not-so-noble nobility and freeing slaves. The destructive chaos she wrought made these worlds anew, and most everyone loved her for it. Though in the end, she had to die because there was no limit to her ambition, and chaos, no matter how destructive or creative, must eventually give way to times of peace. I should note that there was also no mercy for anyone she didn't like. In Paris, France, November 10th, 1793, less than a year after King Louis had been shaved by the national razor, executed by the guillotine, revolutionary extremists inaugurated the brand new atheistic state-sponsored religion, the Cult of Reason, with a ceremony in the Cathedral of Notre Dame. It was reconstituted as a Temple of Reason, and its altar was replaced with one dedicated to the Goddess of Liberty, personified by a beautiful young woman dressed in white with a Phrygian bonnet holding a pike. On the altar, a small flame burned, representing the power of reason. The incident grew to symbolize this period in French history known as the Terror, a period in which the Jacobin far left would try to purge France of Christianity. Their new goddess, who represents the French Republic till this day, would be given the name Marianne. What many historians do not like to acknowledge is that this was likely a derivation on Marie, the Blessed Virgin, whom she was meant to replace, not only in the minds of the French people, but quite literally. Statues of the Virgin Mary during this period would be altered with revolutionary garb to represent this new goddess. In the United States, we have our own familiar firewoman. The Statue of Liberty, built as a joint effort between France and America, holds a torch in her right hand. In her left is a tablet inscribed with July 4th, 1776 in Roman numerals. This, of course, is the date of American independence. It is my belief that the French and American people have never really understood their new goddess. I don't think the firewoman trope or archetype is a personification of liberty or reason. I think she is the personification of revolution, at least on a macro scale. This is evidenced by fully understanding her historical context and further evidenced by the way she is developed in our popular fiction. I imagine her roaming the earth, toppling illegitimate or ineffective hierarchies, inciting chaos throughout the land, as if she were looking for a mate, because like all women, the firewoman was also cursed to desire her man, and she secretly longs to be tamed and subdued. She is looking for a man who is worthy of her. That man could be a just and worthy king, like King David, King Arthur, or even George Washington, or that man can be a tyrant, like Napoleon or Hitler. Unfortunately for us, the former have always been in short supply, and even when we get one, they don't get to stick around for long. This brings me to my last question. Why was this character in my dream? Bear with me here. To answer this question, I turn to Jungian psychoanalysis, and I must qualify this section by saying I am in no way an expert on this. Honestly, I've read one book on the subject. I'm guessing that the firewoman in my dream had something to do with Jung's concept of the anima. Jung believed that the anima in the male psyche, or animus in the female psyche, represented the contrasexual qualities of an individual's personality. For men, it would contain their archetypal image of a woman, and conversely, it would contain the archetypal image of a man for a woman. He also believed that the anima and animus are responsible for filtering the contents of the collective unconscious through to the conscious mind. So my guess is that the firewoman in my dream and the nightmares that followed were something like my anima popping my giant inflated ego. Again, I'm only speculating here, but we can see how this pattern is analogous on a micro scale to the revolutionary pattern on a macro scale. I hope you found this interesting. Before writing this, I scoured the internet and couldn't find anything analytical written about this firewoman figure. This surprised me, given how frequently she makes appearances in our stories. So as far as I know, I'm the first. But thank you for your time and your consideration.